In this episode, we take the idea of risk and control prioritization and connect it to a bigger question that organizations constantly face. How do you make sure security work supports what the business is actually trying to accomplish? This is where cyber risk frameworks come in. A framework is not a tool or a piece of software. It is a structured way of thinking and organizing security activities so they are consistent, measurable, and aligned with outcomes. Beginners sometimes hear framework and imagine a dense document full of jargon, but at the foundation level, a framework is simply a common language. It helps people agree on what to protect, how to assess risk, what controls to implement, and how to improve over time. The GISF exam often tests whether you understand why frameworks exist and how they connect security decisions to business goals rather than being security for its own sake. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Let's start with the problem frameworks solve. Without a framework, security efforts can become a collection of disconnected tasks, like installing a new control here, writing a policy there, responding to incidents as they happen, and hoping the overall risk decreases. The business, however, cares about outcomes like staying operational, protecting customer trust, meeting legal obligations, and enabling growth. A framework provides a map that links security activities to those outcomes. It helps leaders answer questions such as which risks threaten our mission most, where are we weak, and what improvements will reduce risk in the most meaningful way. This connection is important because security resources are limited and business leaders need a rational basis for spending time and money on safeguards. When you use a framework, you can explain security as a set of prioritized actions tied to business objectives rather than as technical preferences. A key idea in frameworks is alignment, which means security work is chosen and evaluated based on how it supports the organization's goals. For example, if an organization's goal is to provide reliable online service, then availability becomes a major focus, and controls that improve resilience, monitoring, and recovery might be prioritized. If the goal is to maintain customer trust and comply with privacy obligations, then confidentiality and integrity for customer data become central, and access controls, encryption, and auditability rise in importance. Frameworks help you make these priorities explicit rather than leaving them implicit or assumed. On the exam, you may see scenarios where security choices depend on business context, and recognizing that context is often the path to the best answer. Frameworks also bring consistency to risk assessment. Different teams might otherwise evaluate risk differently, leading to confusion. One group might call a threat high risk because it sounds scary, while another might call it low risk because it rarely happens. A framework encourages shared criteria for likelihood and impact, and often suggests processes for identifying assets, threats, vulnerabilities, and controls. This does not mean everyone must agree perfectly, but it means they are using the same structure and vocabulary. Consistency matters because it allows risks to be compared and prioritized across the organization. When you can compare risks, you can make better decisions about which security projects to fund and which can wait. Another important role of frameworks is helping organizations define maturity, which is a way of describing how developed and reliable their security practices are. A beginner organization might have informal processes and inconsistent controls. A more mature organization tends to have documented policies, standardized controls, regular monitoring, and continuous improvement cycles. Frameworks often provide guidance for moving from ad hoc behavior toward repeatable, measurable practices. This is valuable because it gives the business a roadmap for improvement that can be planned over time. Instead of trying to fix everything immediately, the organization can progress step by step. In exam questions, when you see language about building programs, establishing consistent practices, or improving over time, framework thinking is often relevant. Many frameworks are built around high-level functions that describe what security programs do. Even if the exact names differ, the common pattern is that organizations identify what they have, protect what matters, detect problems, respond to incidents, and recover operations. This cycle reflects the reality that you cannot prevent every incident, so you need a complete approach. The value of this functional model is that it helps ensure no major area is neglected. If an organization invests heavily in prevention but ignores detection, it may miss breaches for months. If it detects incidents but lacks response planning, it may react poorly under pressure. Frameworks encourage balanced coverage that supports business resilience. On the exam, questions that involve which activity is missing or what should be improved often relate to these functional categories. Frameworks also help translate security into metrics that business leaders understand. A metric is a measurement that shows progress or performance. Business leaders typically do not want technical detail without context. They want to know whether risk is going down, whether controls are working, and whether the organization can recover from disruptions. A framework provides a structure for choosing meaningful measurements, such as how quickly critical vulnerabilities are addressed, how often access reviews occur, or how quickly incidents are detected and contained. These are not just numbers. They are indicators of risk management effectiveness. When security can be measured and reported, it becomes easier to justify investments and to focus efforts where they matter most. Exam scenarios may test whether you understand why measurement and reporting are part of good governance. A frequent beginner misconception is that adopting a framework automatically makes an organization secure. A framework is not a shield, it is a guide. Real security improvement comes from implementing controls, following procedures, training people, and revisiting risk decisions regularly. Frameworks help by organizing these actions, but they do not replace them. Another misconception is that frameworks are only for compliance. While frameworks can support compliance, their real value is strategic alignment and repeatable risk management. Compliance often focuses on meeting minimum requirements, while frameworks can help an organization exceed minimums when its risk profile demands it. On the exam, if a question contrasts checkbox compliance with broader risk-based thinking, the risk-based framework approach is usually the stronger answer. Let's connect frameworks to practical prioritization, because alignment is not theoretical. Suppose an organization's business goal is rapid product development and frequent software releases. Security work must support that goal by integrating safeguards into development processes rather than blocking releases unpredictably. In that context, prioritizing consistent vulnerability management, secure coding standards, and clear approval processes may align security with the business rhythm. Another organization might prioritize strict change control because it values stability over speed. Frameworks help tailor security practices to these different business needs while still maintaining core protections. The exam often expects you to recognize that security decisions depend on business goals and that one-size-fits-all answers are less appropriate than context-aware ones. Risk appetite and risk tolerance are also part of framework-driven alignment. Risk appetite is the overall amount of risk an organization is willing to take in pursuit of objectives. Risk tolerance is the acceptable range for specific risks. Frameworks help organizations define these concepts and ensure security decisions reflect them. For example, an organization with low tolerance for data loss will invest more heavily in data protection and resilience. An organization that can tolerate minor outages might prioritize other risks first. This matters because security work must be justified as supporting the organization's chosen level of risk acceptance. On the exam, when you see a scenario where leadership decisions affect security priorities, the concept of risk appetite is often in the background. Frameworks also support communication across roles. Security involves executives, managers, technical staff, and end users, each with different perspectives. A framework provides a shared structure that allows these groups to coordinate. Executives can discuss risk and business impact. Managers can discuss policies and standards, and technical teams can discuss control implementation, all within a common model. This coordination reduces friction and duplication of effort. It also helps ensure that when the organization says it is improving security, everyone is talking about the same improvements. In exam questions that ask about why frameworks are useful, answers involving consistency, communication, and alignment are often correct. Another essential element is continuous improvement. Risk changes over time as threats evolve, technology changes, and business priorities shift. Frameworks encourage periodic reassessment, which means you revisit assets, threats, vulnerabilities, and controls and adjust priorities accordingly. This is not a sign that the previous work failed. It is a sign that the organization is adapting responsibly. Continuous improvement includes learning from incidents, updating procedures, improving training, and measuring effectiveness. This cycle supports long-term business resilience. On the exam, when you see language about lessons learned, program maturity, or iterative improvement, it often reflects this framework mindset. To conclude, cyber risk frameworks help align security work with business goals by providing a structured way to assess risk, prioritize controls, measure progress, and improve over time. They create a common language that supports consistency across teams and ensures no major security function is neglected. Frameworks do not replace real security actions, but they organize and justify those actions so they support outcomes the business cares about, like trust, compliance, resilience, and growth. When business priorities change, frameworks help security adapt without losing structure. If you carry one decision rule forward, let it be this. When choosing or evaluating any security activity, ask how it reduces a specific risk to a critical business goal and favor the option that most clearly strengthens that alignment.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.